We work hard, we play hard. We are gamerpreneurs. Individuals who have chosen to give up the security of a 9 to 5 in favor of getting to set our own hours, of doing the work that we want to do, and we refuse to give up the hobby that we grew up with in order to, quote, grow up. We have learned countless laws of life and sales from the games that we play, and we excel in everything we do. We see the wonder and glory in every interaction. We fit in awkwardly with the rest of the world because they don't understand our quirkiness, and we wear it as a badge of pride. We are focused, clear, and know what we want. We are gamerpreneurs, and we are taking over the world. Hey there, everybody. Dr. Bradford Carlton here. Welcome back to the Gamerpreneur Podcast. Today, I got a very special guest with us. We have WootyStyle, also known as Dan. Hey there, Dan.
Good morning. Good morning. How's it going?
And fantastic. It's a beautiful day in Las Vegas. How about yourself?
Yeah. No, it's great. You know, coffee first thing in the morning is great. I was doing a little bit of work before this, so I'm excited. I'm excited to chat.
I get it. I just got all my social media scheduled for the next week. So
yeah. Oh, do you use Hootsuite or what do you use to schedule?
I use Hootsuite.
Okay,
my wife uses Agora Pulse. I like Hootsuite.
Yep.
Agora Pulse has some tools in it that are cool,
Yep.
but Hootsuite's cheaper.
Yeah. No, Hootsuite's great. I'm a big fan of what they're doing, so totally get it.
All right. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Dan?
Sure. So I'm Dan Kelly. I'm known as WootyStyle online. I've done a little bit of everything when it comes to gaming. I'm super old, retired, competitive player. I've played Halo and Counter-Strike and Rainbow Six competitively. I've done a bunch of rank 1 stuff in some video games like PUBG and Evolve. Magic the Gathering, I hit Mythic a bunch of times playing Magic the Gathering Arena. So I'm a gamer's gamer. I play a lot of different things. And recently, over the past couple of years, I've done a lot of back-end esports stuff with a couple of different startups from Unicorn and some of the Las Vegas-based casinos and their gaming esports initiatives. And I have 2 startups myself right now that I'm pushing along down the line. So it's exciting times.
Wonderful. We'd love to hear about those. And
Sure.
we'll be asking you today.
Yeah.
All right. So I always like to start kind of getting some fun involved in these interviews. So why don't you tell us on a scale of 1 to 10, how weird are you?
I'm pretty weird. It's called like a 7.231 repeating type thing. I think everybody's a little weird, I think that's the beauty of people, but gamers specifically, I think the fun in why you love what you love and doing the things that you do is the bleed over between different communities. I mean, you could be a gamer and love anime. They're not mutually exclusive, but the things that you love do add to the totality of the weirdness. So, I love, the maker community and 3D printing things, and I love gaming, I love film. So, I think that makes me a pretty weird dude, when it comes down to it.
All right. Well, I don't think most gamers consider you weird. That's pretty average.
No, thanks. I appreciate it.
All right. So you've got a lot of different business experience. You got a lot of business stuff
Sure.
going on right now. And that's kind of what I want to talk about. But before I get into that, I'm going to kind of switch up my interviews. Normally I go through your stream, but let's kind of start with your gamer cred.
Sure.
So you mentioned all these different games that you play. How did you even first get into gaming?
Yeah, back in 98, 99, I was in freshman year in high school, and my friends, they sorry about that. They introduced me to this world of PC gaming that I didn't really know existed before. My family we had a PC, but we didn't have a PC that was really gamer worthy. It was more for like America Online and things like that. And my friend's basement had, all of my friends would move their computers into my friend's basement every weekend, and they would just LAN the whole weekend, and it was insane. And I've never seen anything like it. And it got me so hooked on games like Quake 3 and Counter-Strike, Action Half-Life, Heroes of Might and Magic, and Command and Conquer that I literally became like a zombie to everything else, and I just like poured my whole life into playing games. And yeah, I played in some tournaments up and down the East Coast for Quake, for Counter-Strike, for Halo when it came out in 2001. I would tell my parents I'm going to my friend's house. I'd tell my friends I'm going and I'm staying home for the weekend, and I would get a Greyhound bus ticket and go to Philadelphia, from the New York down to Miami and playing tournaments at Scorpico or Net 2 Zone and things like that. And it was fantastic. It was such a fun experience for me have this thing that people didn't really find socially acceptable back then. But it was great. I loved it, and I haven't stopped gaming since, but I've had a roller coaster of a life in the background. So gaming's always been the thing that sort of keeps me grounded. But yeah, it's a long time of gaming.
Right.
Over 20 years of gaming.
I dig that. No, I understand. I had to go to law school. When you go to law school, you don't have time for anything else.
Hmm.
You just
Hmm.
drop everything. So I didn't get
Yep.
to play games for years, and then you can pick it back up and then get busy. And so I understand.
Yeah.
Something you mentioned. You said you were hiding this from your parents. Did you ever kind of come out and tell them about that?
Yeah, my mom didn't believe me. She thought that I come home with tournament earnings or a thing from a tournament, and she'd say, oh, you had this made, or this is fake, or you're working a job, or doing worse things, selling drugs or something like that. And my hometown isn't known for like this is what we're known for. We're known for Archie's comics, like where it's inked and pressed, like so the Sonic the Hedgehog comic, the Archie comics, things like
Yeah.
that, and where the X-Men live, like where the X-Men mansion is. Like that's my
Okay.
hometown. So it's like it's the most nerdy, like quiet, geeky, uber safe place in the world. And she thought that I was doing all these not so savory things, so it was hard to talk to people about it because it's other than my friends that were into that kind of thing. No one really understood it at the time. They didn't think playing video games you could make any kind of money. And typically speaking, I'd go to these tournaments, I'd lose most of the time, but even when I'd win, I'd have to spend the money that I spent to get there and come back would be what the tournament earnings were back then. Like you're winning 500, $1,000 maybe to take a bus and then fly back home. You're spending all that. You gotta eat, you gotta pay for hotels and things like that. Fatality has a notoriously funny story about sleeping. People sleep in tubs in hotels to kind of make it cheaper for tournaments. They'd like triple or quadruple up in a room, and people on the floor, people in the bathroom sleeping, and things like that. And it's serious. It's like it was that crazy back then. Things were so expensive. You didn't earn a lot. So
I'll tell you, I've been to some business conferences where people still do that. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I get it, man. I get it. Every dollar helps. Every dollar does help.
all right, but what about today? Do your
Yep.
parents understand what you're doing? Are they
Yeah.
supportive? Is this something
Yeah.
you just don't talk to them about?
Well, my mom, my dad, I joined the military at a very young age, and I I think that was the hardest thing for them was it was such a surprise. Like I had signed a contract to go to the military at a very young age, and I didn't tell them. I didn't a lot of things I didn't tell them that I was doing, but I didn't tell them, and I think they found even that going to the Air Force at 17, 16, 17 was more acceptable than playing video games because there's a reality to it. There's something tangible about it, right? Your son's in a uniform, you know what he's doing. When you say you're playing video games for a living, a lot of people have questions. Like what does that actually mean? And I think now with how popular it is in the social standards now, it's been on ESPN. It's on national television, right? There's commercials from national food chains and national places that have gamers in it, and I think it's much more acceptable. So the first couple of things that they saw were Rick Fox is in it. My dad's a big Lakers fan, and so this is what you're talking. This is what you've been talking about forever. This is the thing that you're doing, and it's like, well, yeah, but it's different. Like it's different now. Now that there's these basketball players and movie stars and larger than life music artists that are in it now. But yeah, that's basically it. So they accept it now. They get it because it's much more socially norm that like millionaires are in it. So it's different. It's a different conversation because now we talk about the money and not the gaming stuff.
I understand. No, I think one of the best parts is a lot of these guys are able to put the stuff on their resumes now. I
Right,
mean, back
right,
when I was playing Warcraft and I was like guild leader, raid leader, I
right,
was managing this giant, conglomerate business with trying to herd cats to get people to do
right,
stuff. And it was
right.
a legit business. We felt that way about it.
You can't put that on your resume back
No,
then. No one
no,
cared.
no. Everybody's like, what's a guild leader? What's even worse? What's a clan tag? What does that? What does that mean? And it's like, oh my god, it's a team. It's a team. It's okay. Never mind. Never mind. I'm not gonna. It's too much. It's too hard to
All
do
right.
this.
All right. Back to your gamer cred. What
Sure.
games are you looking forward to coming out?
Cyberpunk I think is going to be the biggest game in the world. I think the two most exciting things outside of Cyberpunk is they're both in VR. It's Boneworks, the guys at Node Quarter Digital, are creating a VR game. It's really exciting. It uses the Valve Index, so there's a lot of really interesting nuances that you can do in that game that you can't do in a lot of other games, and it feels like a very Valve inspired game because it is. And Half-Life Alex I think is it's not Half-Life 3, and I think people are going to be really disappointed by that, but Valve has been known to push the boundaries when it comes to technology and gaming, and I think they do see a future in VR, and this is that dipping the toe in to see how people react to a very necessary VR purchase. I'd say those are sort of the games I'm looking for the most. I do think Cyberpunk is going to be the biggest game of all time. I think everybody's going to find something special about that game to love. With or without the multiplayer, I think that single player is going to be uh, the thing that everybody's going to play.
Sure. I think last time we chatted, we made the joke that we should never expect Half-Life 3 to come out because Valve
Yeah,
can't count to
no,
3.
yeah, Valve cannot count to three at all. And the orange box was so great. I want them to do like a black box or a red box or something, like a new edition of it that just has all the threequels in it. So like Half-Life 3, Portal 3, Left 4 Dead 3, Team Fortress 3. That would just be the coolest thing.
I would
But
buy that day one. I think
I
a
would
lot of
I
people would.
I'd spend $500 on it just so I could have all of it. I would overspend on something like that just so that I have all of that content day one. It'd be great.
All right.
Fantastic.
So you mentioned before that you had been a streamer at some point. Can you kind of
Yeah.
talk us through how you got started and
Yeah.
like what was that history?
Yeah. So I got out of the military in 2011. I started going to game design school at Academy of Art in San Francisco for level design. And at the same time, I was just getting back into the swing of playing games regularly and putting the time in and regrinding and things like that. And a couple of my friends at the time were starting to grow their stream to a pretty high level. People like Summit 1G and Shroud and these guys that were really good at playing games, and they were starting to put their online presence out there, and they're starting to grow. And I started my stream in 2012, 2013, and yeah, it went quick, just by having the friends that I had and the people that I played with. I signed SteelSeries as a sponsor relatively quick. I got my partner button in like 90 days, which back then it was impossible to get a partner button or a partnership on Twitch. You had to have like 500 concurrents and like all these crazy unrealistic goals that you had to hit, and we did it pretty quick. And yeah, I gave it a good 2 years, like a good solid 2 years of it, and I realized it's a difficult ask to grow a community in entertainment online where everything is live. It's harder to do it when you have a video camera and you have a chat and you have game and the game that you have to play. You have all these expectations. You have all this stuff that you have to build at the same time. It's very similar to something like hosting a TV show, but you don't just have the live audience that reacts to things. They have feedback on what you're doing. They have a very much a direct input on how the stream is dictated, because one donation could change the whole course of the stream, or one thing that you do on stream could dictate the rest of the stream. So there's so many different factors that can influence you and what you do on a stream. I'm thankful for the time that I spent on Twitch as a full-time streamer, because it allows me to do the things that I'm doing now, and have the relationships that I have now. But it's very challenging.
Right. Do you think streaming still has the same issues that you had back then?
It's worse now. I think the expectation is, especially for someone like me that's been there and done it, and I've moved on. When people ask for advice, the advice I give them is just to get started. There's other things in there too that we could touch later, but just get started making content. And I think the expectation is, because my journey went quick, a lot of people think, oh, if he can do it that fast, then I can do it that fast, and that's just It's simply not true. There's a lot of things that happened with my journey on Twitch and my journey as a gamer that were very luck and timing based, that a lot of other people will not ever have that kind of a thing. And I think expectations have been set differently, even from Twitch and from Mixer and from Facebook gaming and YouTube gaming. Expectations are that, yeah, hey, we have these really easy barriers of entry, and you can get a sub button in like 30 days now if you're an affiliate, and we can make this thing happen really quickly. And I've helped friends get affiliate, but there's just no way to like guarantee that you'll have a successful Twitch career. I know people that have been streaming for 5-6 years now that have never broke 20 concurrent viewers, never, not once. And for them that's more than enough, but for other people that's enough to say I can never do that. And it's tragic because you never know when you'll be successful on something like live streaming until you wake up one day and then there's just everything that you want is there, as opposed to everything that you think makes you successful is there. And it's a very hard time to figure out what that means for you for success. But I think a lot of people will find that they're not going to be successful in life.
Okay. What would you say are the skills that someone would need in order to be successful with streaming? Not necessarily you, but just generally anyone.
Yeah, you got to have a decent level of business acumen, because you're selling a product, whether you like it or not. Your stream is a product that you're making for people, and whether or not they buy that product is up to how you drive a professionalism or a lack of professionalism for some people. But it comes down to how much you believe in the product that you're selling. And if you're playing a character, that character is only going to last for so long until it cracks. And the case in point in that is, Dr. Disrespect has one of the best characters, I think, in all of entertainment, not just gaming. But that character transcends everything. There's something really awesome about a competitive, literally larger than life character that's able to do all these things, but he's also human underneath. So when he makes mistakes in his personal life, it cracks the armor for that character, because now you don't have just a character. You have the guy that did the thing that's underneath that character. So you can be as dedicated and hardcore to a character or to this personality as you need to be, but there is a time limit. And when that sand runs out, you need to understand how to pivot. There's always something really special about something that can last for a very long time. But if you can't maintain it, you're going to lose all of the momentum that you have. So I would say the things that you need to have is a belief in the thing that you're doing, but also understanding how a brand works. There's a reason why Rice Krispie hasn't changed their branding in 20 years. It's because it works. There's something very simple about it. It's very easy to know and see. They have a color scheme that's very recognizable, and it will never change. And if it does change, people won't understand what the product is. You have to treat your stream the same way. And if you can get a grasp of those two things, and then have really good timing, then the sky's the limit. You just have to stick with it.
Wonderful, wonderful. How about marketing? What do you think somebody should do in order to market?
I think branding is the first step. I think understanding what a color scheme is, getting a logo, getting a good flow to everything that you have from your social media page, to your Twitch landing page, to a website potentially. Everything has to make sense, and there's tons of easy ways to do that online, and there's people that'll help for next to nothing for you to get that thing going. And as far as marketing goes, I mean, that's literally the $1 billion question, right? It's where do we dedicate resources to acquire people? And I think for most people playing games on the internet, not only is there a weird social deficiency that they're making up for, like as far as like in the real world, they're making up for a smaller social adeptness, but they're comfortable in their home. So that's where the balance happens, is because I'm so comfortable at home, I can be comfortable on the internet, and sometimes that means a little bit too comfortable. But if you understand how it is to communicate with somebody that is very parallel with you in the things that they like and the things that they believe and the things that they find entertaining, and you're able to provide an outlet for that, I think the marketing takes care of itself, in that people will always be able to find you. It's just about getting them to stick. Now, if you want to get external marketing factors like paying for social, ads, or doing the stuff on YouTube, or doing cross promotions with other Twitch streamers and things like that. That's fantastic. But that comes down to a grasp of business acumen. It comes down to understanding how to leverage your brand alongside another brand. There's tons of crossovers that happen all the time between brands, and it's strong because people believe in this and this, and then now they're together. But if you're working with somebody that it doesn't make sense to have a collaboration with, then it'll never work. So a good business acumen for sure, but also a healthy understanding of what it is that you're doing and what it is that you're selling.
All right, I absolutely love it. Here at the Gamerpreneur, we take gaming and entrepreneurship, we smash them together. So you keep saying business acumen, I'm like,
yeah, absolutely.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about the businesses you currently have?
Yeah, so my company is called The Factory. It has two houses to it, I guess, two sides to the coin. The first side is media. It's long form, scripted, mostly scripted gamer media television shows. Take popular television shows and ideas, but extrapolate it to a gaming and esports audience. Something that's really familiar, things that are really familiar in other things that you've seen, but breathing a gamer life into it with some realism. There's a ton of really good gamer stories out there that people need to hear and see and get attached to. And right now there isn't a lot of that. There are some network television companies that are looking to explore that space, which I think is really great. But I think they're gonna do the same thing that Will Ferrell kind of did with very niche sports, and then you're gonna ruin it and overstay your welcome. I think the lack of real people dedicated to those projects, real gamers dedicated to those projects, creates a very big problem when it comes to how we're going to accept that media, right? It's not as simple as, oh, well, Ninja was in that movie that one time. No one saw that movie, and no one was going to go watch that movie because Ninja or Casey Neistat were in that movie, right? It's just a terrible movie. Instead, you need to make something that is very authentic and very real. And I don't think network television knows how to do that. They're going to have people that have never been in this space writing about this space and creating very personal, intimate stories. So we're looking to just be the counter to that and put the content that we're making in places that gamers would want to watch this content on Twitch, on YouTube, and things like that.
Okay, so it kind of sounds like you're trying to revive G4 in some way.
The biggest thing is, yes, like that is exactly sort of the idea that we want to go. Less of the sort of absurd with that G4 had with Attack of the Show, which was just very sort of like there was a lot of irreverent humor and a lot of like craziness that happened. And like Kevin Pereira and Olivia Munn are fantastic, and I'm glad that they did what they did in that short span for the time that they had it. But from G4 they made Attack. Kevin Pereira made Attack, and it did really well for a short time, again, because that kind of humor only goes so far and it plays to a very specific audience. We're trying to mature it up a little bit and give people something really, really grounded in reality.
Okay, and how about your other business? You said you had two.
Yeah, so the other half of that house in the factory is a game design studio, and we're making a first-person 4-player co-op heist game experience. Everybody asks, how is it not Payday type thing? Well, it's more, Payday's more heat, while we're more Ocean's 11 Italian Job type thing. It's much more about the planning and the pre-planning, the characters. There's going to be a cinematic quality and nature to it, to where the the story plays out in a very cinematic kind of way. It'll be abbreviated, so there won't be 500 hours of doing crazy stuff. The story will play out over 10 to 20 hours, and then you'll be able to replay different missions, and we'll inject new missions, new characters, and things like that as time goes along. So yeah, it's a much more cinematic and story driven heist game than something like Payday 2.
Love it. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
all right, now let me see. You were mentioning, because you mentioned Las Vegas and you did some work here at the casinos. Can you kind of elaborate on that?
Yeah. So I left the very corporate Apple structure back in 2017, I think, 2016 or 2017. And I started working at the Downtown Grand Hotel. They were sort of, tip of the spear when they were pushing esports out here a number of years ago. They would do tournaments there every week. They were open, 5 or 6 days a week. And I was running that esports program out there for a short while. I realized that, again, corporate structures in esports are very difficult to make sense, especially when the corporate structure here in Las Vegas is in hospitality and gaming, and they understand a very specific, we need to
That's a
get
different
people
kind
in.
of gaming, though. So
It's a different kind of gaming.
drives me nuts driving around town like, oh,
Right.
game. Oh, no, it's a
Right.
different kind of
It's
hard
not
game.
the same thing. When it says gaming up there, the casino gaming business is a monster, and they have a lot of problems that they need to solve themselves that do not need esports involved in it right now at all. So I did that for a number for a number of months, and then Unicorn, the esports betting company with cryptocurrency, was hiring. So I took their global media director job, and I was living here and flying back and forth to Berlin like every other 2 weeks or so to run their studio and open the studio here in Las Vegas. It didn't work out so well. There's a lot of red tape when it comes to esports betting and gambling, and the things that you can do or say when it comes to esports and then betting regulations. And a lot of the betting licenses around cryptocurrency that Unicorn was getting was only for a short amount of time. So it was basically like wrapped around an event, or it was wrapped around, a specific time period. And when you lose a betting license in a country and you lose all of that population that you can advertise to or do things with, it creates a very challenging problem. You can have a betting license in Malta and Isle of Man and all this other crazy stuff, and it's great. But when you don't have the big places where it makes sense, like the United States, what are you really doing? Like, your product is officially way too early. And then the people that would have been early adopters for a cryptocurrency can't even own the cryptocurrency because of betting regulation. They just can't. You can sit on it, but you can't do anything with it. So, and crypto back then was doing really well, so the coin started to do really well, and there's a lot of excitement. But the rest of the world just does not care about cryptocurrency and esports betting being a thing right now. It's not a hot button item because betting in the United States on sports games is already difficult enough as it is. Now you want to bring cryptocurrency into the mix and esports. Like, it's just so many different things that, regulatory bodies don't care about right now. But with Unicorn, there was a lot of work at the MGM Grand, where we do tournaments every week at the Level Up Lounge, and yeah. So I've seen, the Downtown Grand Hotel and the MGM Grand Hotel. The two extremes when it comes to like mom and pop hotel and like biggest on the strip, and how they handled esports. And I can tell you right now, they're both unequipped to do it properly. So,
well, how do you think they compare to the HyperX Arena over at the Luxor?
So I think
that's gorgeous.
Right. It's beautiful, and they spent I think they spent like $30 million.
There's no room in there for anything.
There's no room for anything. And I think what they wanted, what they tried to get people convinced on, was the idea that the Vegas nightlife needs esports, and that's not true. I don't think that's true. I think what you need to do in that space is you need to remove the gaming element from it 100%. I think the gaming element needs to go to a much more neutral location. Like,
and again, you're referring to the gambling portion.
No, I mean the esports portion of it.
Esports portion. Okay.
Yeah. You take the esports portion and you put it at somewhere like the park, the MGM Park type thing, right? Because now it's not a casino floor, and now you can have people of all ages sort of walking around doing stuff. The difference between going to the park and going to the Luxor is most parents are like, why are you going to the Luxor? Why am I sending my kid to a casino? It doesn't make any sense. Like, why would a 16-year-old kid want to go here, type thing? And I think that the park is much more family friendly anyway, and you'll have a lot of foot traffic there as opposed to the complete opposite end of the strip, where nobody wants to go. And I think it's a beautiful space, and I think they did really well there. And I think, but I also think you can tell with how many times the branding is turned over in that space, from like, hey, it's the esports arena, now it's the HyperX esports arena, and nobody really can kind of figure out how to keep people in there. I think it's just a location problem. They jumped the gun hardcore when it comes to like finding a location for that. They just said, what do we have? And the LAX had closed, so they're like, put it in that space. And it's cool that you can spend that kind of money and do that kind of thing. But since the Ninja event back in 2016, 2017, that space has been notoriously empty. And I think I think it's just big corporate casino gaming thinking that if I get 21-year-olds to 31-year-olds that come into the casino to play video games, they'll stop and play blackjack, right? Like there's free drinks on the casino floor, right? Like this, how do we get them to do that? How do we get them to play slots? We put slots right outside the esports arena. And it's like, this is why no one wants to be here. It's because I can hear the sounds of the slots from inside the esports arena while there's an event going on. And if you think that that's what I want, you'll never understand. If this is what your best effort is out the box, you'll never understand what it is that we're looking for.
All right, I love it. Now, you obviously have a lot of business experience. What advice would you have to some gamerpreneur who's looking to start something, not necessarily gaming related, but just anything? What would you tell somebody?
I think you need a good mentor first and foremost. I think you need somebody that's been there and done that to not hand walk you through, but guide you through. A Yoda to your Luke, if you will. And I think that starts with trusting other people. I think a lot of people are worried about, oh, my idea is going to get ripped off because this town sucks. Or I live in LA and there's a million ideas out there. No one will ever listen to me. I think the flawed logic of those two types of things is what holds a lot of people from being successful business people back. Find a good mentor. And then understand.
Can I bounce off of what you just said real quick before you continue?
Sure.
So as a former attorney, I did NDAs like they were water. Like
right.
NDAs everywhere. But as soon as I went into the business consulting side of it, nobody wants to touch an NDA. If you present somebody an NDA, they walk. They will not talk to you.
Right. And it's also this thing of the very harsh reality is, even if you were to hand somebody an NDA, most of the time those NDAs are either poorly written or unenforceable anyway. And it's too expensive for someone like me that doesn't have millions of dollars to chase someone like you that might have millions of dollars to enforce an NDA that most of the time would be thrown out. That's the harsh reality of it, is especially in esports and gaming, there's so many ways to dance around an NDA that people just do not care anymore. And the term friend DA, I use that a lot. Like, hey, this is a friend DA. Let's just make sure that, like, you're not going to go talk to somebody else about this thing, which, it has happened in some of the things that we're doing. But I think, again, the harsher other side of the reality is, if I want to talk to an angel team or a venture capital team and I'm like, hey, here's an NDA, they either change the tone of the conversation or they completely walk away. And I think that's fine. But I also think that it's strange that from one end, when the NDA is presented, it's totally okay and it's fine, and I signed this NDA and life is great. But when I need to present one back to someone else, internally in that same organization, it's, oh, well, the tone needs to change, or, this needs to, and it's like, I don't understand I'm doing the same thing that you did. I'm just making sure that the conversation that we're having, because we're not having it with the greater structure of your venture capital, is also protected. It's the same thing. Like, I don't get it. So yeah, it's weird. It's a weird world we live in when it comes to legal stuff.
So I'm sorry, I interrupted you. You were talking about advice for new business owners.
Yeah. So find a good mentor, understand your product. I think even if it's Rice Krispie Treats.
That's a big one.
I think you need to understand what your product is, because everyone can find solutions to problems. And there's a really good show on network television where people find solutions to problems and they pitch them to people, and you still see that they don't understand what their product actually is. They've either had a mechanical engineer go in and make this thing, or they would cut up a sponge and now the sponge is a different type of sponge than the sponge that you can buy in your store. It doesn't change the fact that you don't understand what your product is. And you really need to think, what am I selling? What are people buying? Why would they need it? Why would they become emotionally attached to this product and this idea? And then and then go from there. I think the ideation phase of what you're doing is the second most important thing. I think really kind of belief in your product is number one, but the ideation and understanding what that product is a 1A, 1B type situation. It's really important. Do not start a business if you do not understand what it is that you're selling. Like, don't just open a LAN center because you think gaming is like the hot thing if you do not understand that gamers don't want to pay by the hour for gaming anymore.
And would you recommend they get a mentor to learn that stuff?
100%. You need to
have. What
other
resources should somebody use?
Yeah. LegalZoom is one. Understand what you could use at a very preliminary level, what legal stuff and what documents and get familiar with terms. But a good resource is to find people in the industry or close to the industry that understand what you're doing. And most of that requires you to get out of your place, go to another place, and have a coffee chat or have a meeting or schedule some time with somebody that understands it. Even just having a relationship with somebody that will mentor you through the business side of things, you'll get blind feedback from someone that might not completely be in the industry that you're in, but understands the money side of things. And I think that that's very important. No matter who you are, what you're doing, having somebody that's had experience in a corporate structure or a limited liability structure or something like that, that can tell you these are the pitfalls that I went through just from a business perspective. The product's irrelevant. But then also, hey, your product sounds cool. Can you tell me more? Yeah, Dust Off is fantastic, and I don't know, how to sell this to people, but I know that it's useful. Like they'll be able to give you some blind feedback from somebody that might not have ever used your product, and why they might hate it or love it. So yeah, mentors are immensely important to have.
All right, right
Probably
on.
yeah.
So I want to know, it sounds like you've had a lot of different experience in like the corporate side, on
Yep.
the gamerpreneur side, so business owners who do the gaming, who understand that side. What's the community like on the gamerpreneur side?
It's really shallow right now, unfortunately. There's not a lot of people that are rushing out to leave a very successful Twitch, YouTube model that they have and start a business. And I think that there's a really negative feeling from the esports side when it comes to starting a new business. Notoriously, teams are a really bad thing to start because you don't have enough money to find good players unless those players are willing to play for a mom and pop, really small esports org. But then when they get good, they're looking for the money, and if you don't have the money to retain them, then it doesn't make any sense. But I think a lot of people only know what is on Twitter and what popular retweets are. So there's a really bad story that's being told from a gamerpreneur perspective when it comes to esports, that the people that are in esports that are successful have always had money, and they've always been able to do this, and they've always been able to sell this idea, and I'll never be able to do that. And I think people are thinking about it wrong. They're thinking about why I would want to start a team and why I can't start a team versus what can I do that helps the gaming and esports space where there's a gap in the market that I can use my experience to make a reality. And I think that there's a bunch of things that gaming and esports do not have right now that no one is thinking about.
Can you give
That
me an example?
yeah, so the talent side of things, as far as a player developing talent, right? Not a talent representation thing, because Hollywood is coming in and representing esports players and athletes now, right? Like big California is coming in and doing that. But a talent development side of things, a boot camp solution side of things, is missing. And this was the original idea behind the factory, was we were going to build this boot camp solution. I was going to work with all the fitness companies that I was sponsored by and working with at the time, to build a gym, and then build a mobile solution for that, build these trucks that gamers can rent or teams can rent for an event, and we would unpack it inside of a place, wire it up all the internet and stuff like that. And then now you have a boot camp solution that's mobile, and you don't have to ship a whole bunch of gear across the country or across the internationally. You have everything that this team would need inside of this mobile solution or inside of this brick and mortar facility, and it's only open for them, right? Like if you want personal talent development, you would hire a coach just like you'd hire a fitness nutritional coach, right? And then you'd have time that you have dedicated inside of this thing. So from that perspective, the only thing that you ever hear about is, oh, Complexity opened up a land center, and not a land center, but a boot camp facility, and it's in Texas, and it's great. And it's like, cool, thanks Jerry Jones for putting all that money in there, because you got all that money to spare anyway. But the average teams don't have the ability to have something like that. So talent development to me is huge. You can't sit at home and go nuts in an online game of Counter-Strike, and then that's all you have. Like those days are dead and gone. You cannot develop your talent at home by yourself anymore. You need to go out and get stomped by other people or play on a team and understand what a team dynamic is before you get embarrassed online. And that to me is the truest thing right now, is if you can't understand how to develop your own personal talent outside of the comfort of your home, you're not going to be successful. You're really
that's great advice, even beyond gaming. That's advice for everything right there. All right. So how do people get a hold of you? What social medias do you use? What are your handles?
So I'm at WootyStyle on Twitter. I'm at WootyStyle TV on Instagram and YouTube. Don't ask me why I couldn't get just at WootyStyle. It's a long, complicated story. But I'm relatively easy to get a hold of. Dan@thefactory.gg is my email. So feel free to email me with any questions that you have. And yeah, I'm pretty easy. I'm always available. LinkedIn as well. LinkedIn, Dan Kelly on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. All right, now, is there anything I should have asked you that I didn't, Dan? This is great.
What is the best meal replacement for a gamer? I'm just kidding. No,
Monster, right?
Yeah,
Monster.
yeah, I mean, it's in Death Stranding. I mean, Kojima.
No, you didn't notice, really.
Yeah, Kojima puts these really just in your face.
How much money do you think he got for that? There's no way he didn't get paid.
I would say like 10 to 20 million probably for that. And that's just based off of like you're gonna sell that many copies, so like $1 a unit, like is a good rough estimate for that. So, and it's totally worth it. I mean, Norman Reedus virtually drinking as many Monster Energies as you can possibly the memes are already
rocking those.
It's totally worth the money. Monster has that kind of money to throw away anyway. They pay their gamers a ridiculous amount of money, and putting it in a game like that makes all the sense in the world. And you know what? Even if it's for the memes, it's totally worth every red cent that they spent on that. I would say, yeah, meal replacements. When Team Rogue was here before they won the ESL event that they won, they were boot camping at the downtown Grand Hotel, and I was working with a fitness company at the time, and the nutritionist at that fitness company gave me a recipe book, and I would do meal replacements and cook meals for them and then put them in their fridge, so that way they had meals that they can microwave and eat instead of going downstairs and eating really unhealthy food. I would like give them meals and, you know, shakes and snacks and things like that from this fitness company. And I'm not going to say that because of that they went to win their event, but I think it's a good indicator of even that type of thing, that they don't want to eat terrible food. And if you provide good food for them, that makes a lot of sense. It changes the mindset of like how serious things are. It's something that small, I think all gamers need to be looking at. Yeah, I have Rice Krispie treats on my desk. You know what else I have? Nature's Valley bars, because I don't know what I want from time to time, but I do know that I don't want to go order a pizza. You know what I mean? But I do want something sweet, or I want something that's not so terrible for me. So it's I think people need to think about meal replacements. Hydrating properly is definitely like 1A, 1B type thing, but eating well is huge, and it's not a hard thing to do. Maybe somebody that's listening needs to come up with a esports and gamer meal show type thing where you can meal prep a bunch of stuff that's really delicious, that won't mess you up your desk, and that you can eat while you're playing games in between rounds of Counter-Strike or whatever, while you're queued for things, because no one's really thinking about how to feed a gamer properly in a way that doesn't come down to steaming broccolini and eating ground turkey, something that's a little bit more familiar, but something that you can eat at a gaming desk that's not so messy. Somebody needs to think of that. That's not for me. That's not my
I was
forte.
just about to ask you, when's the cookbook coming out?
Yeah, no, not me. No, that is not my, I will happily enjoy my coffee and PF Chang's.
All right.
When it comes down to it.
Thank you so much, Dan. It's been absolutely fantastic. Dan Kelly, WootyStyle, thank you so much for coming on with us.
Thank you, Bradford. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Bye now. Hey, if you like this podcast, I'd love to invite you to check out a little bit more about me, Dr. Bradford Carlton, Gamerpreneur. If you go to my website, www.thegamerpreneur.com/bonus, I'm going to give you a free copy of my book, The Warcraft of Business, where I explain my history in both gaming and business and how I brought the two together in order to create some very successful companies and help a lot of people. And all you got to do is pay for shipping and processing, and I'll send you this book. I absolutely know you're going to love it. All right, you all take it easy.